It started with a red wig and a burner phone. No blood, no body. Just a note and a name that was never hers to begin with. The woman known as Danielle Monroe vanished one hot August afternoon. But she hadn't been taken. She had orchestrated her disappearance down to the minute. And the truth she left behind? It would rip open secrets no one saw coming. A brutal battle for power, revenge, and justice unfolds. These aren't just stories. They're real lives, torn apart by secrets. We dive deep into chilling disappearances, unsolved crimes, and the truths buried beneath the surface. Because in the world of true crime, nothing is ever as it seems. And the ending? It will stay with you. Subscribe, share, and join us as we unravel every hidden clue. Danielle Monroe wasn't the kind of woman people questioned. She worked the front desk at a small clinic in Birmingham, Alabama. Always early, soft voice, hair pinned back, quiet, kind, reliable. Patients loved her. Co-workers said she was private but sweet. The kind of woman who always had extra pens and remembered birthdays. But what they didn't know was that Danielle Monroe wasn't her real name. And this wasn't her first life. Before Birmingham, she was Raina Cole. Born in Jackson, Mississippi, daughter of a gospel singer and a corrections officer. By 16, she'd run away from home. By 18, she was married to a man 10 years older. And by 22, she'd filed her first restraining order. There were bruises no one asked about, jobs she left with no notice. A miscarriage in her early 20s that no one, not even her family, knew about. By 30, she disappeared from Mississippi completely. On August 17th, a janitor found her car abandoned behind the clinic. Driver's door open, keys still in the ignition, a blood-stained cardigan on the seat. But there was no blood trail, no signs of struggle, just a note tucked beneath the floor mat. "I'm sorry. I tried." Police launched a missing persons investigation. Posters went up. Local news ran her story under the headline, "Clinic worker mysteriously vanishes in broad daylight." But here's the twist. 2 days before she vanished, Danielle withdrew $4,800 in cash, emptied her locker at work, and deleted all photos from her phone. Detective Monica Lyle was the first to notice something didn't add up. A simple mistake, but one that changed everything. When reviewing footage from a nearby gas station, she spotted Danielle, but not in the clothes she was last seen in. She was wearing a red wig, oversized sunglasses, and had a suitcase. That footage was time-stamped 3 hours before her abduction, and she wasn't alone. A man in a faded hoodie and a limp waited beside the car. He opened the trunk. They hugged, then disappeared west on Highway 78. He was hard to track. No facial ID match, no known associates. But a detail in his tattoo gave him away. A jailhouse etching of the numbers, 41107 on his left wrist. That led Detective Lyle to Marcus Deal, a former felon from Raina Cole's past. They had dated when she was just 19. He served time for armed robbery, and he'd disappeared too. Paroled and never checked in. She now had 2 missing persons, and a single woman with no living next of kin who no longer seemed like a victim. 3 weeks later, a woman using the name Lena Jacobs applied for a library card in Atlanta, Georgia. Same eyes, same gait, same nervous half-smile. Detectives traced the card application to a public library in Decatur, and a man who'd checked out 3 books under her card. Disappearing without a trace. Faking death, a legal perspective. Survival tactics for women on the run. When police arrived at the address she gave, the apartment was empty. Walls bare, fresh bleach smell still hanging in the air. But they found a cracked phone tucked under a loose floorboard. What they recovered changed everything. The phone had 3 voicemails, never sent, all saved under drafts. Voice note 1. "To whoever finds this, just know I wasn't running from the law. I was running from a man who convinced the law to look the other way." Voice note 2. "You only get to be reborn once. I did it wrong the first time. This time I'm choosing who I am." Voice note 3, whispers, "He'll come looking. If he finds me, don't believe the story they tell. I was never crazy. I just stopped waiting to be saved." Detective Lyle now believed Danielle, or Raina, wasn't just fleeing a man. She was fleeing a system, one that had failed her, again and again and again. As investigators dug deeper, they found fingerprints tying Danielle to an abandoned storage unit in Huntsville. Inside, they discovered 3 fake driver's licenses, an old flip phone with only one contact, M, a notebook labeled Exit Plan Final Phase, One page listed burner phones and cheap motels. Another had a chilling checklist. Sever ties, stage scene, leave false trail, burn ID, wait 90 days before resurfacing. She hadn't snapped. She'd strategized. Her whole life had been rehearsing this. But there's one thing she couldn't erase. Her sister. Raina's estranged younger sister, Raina Cole, had been searching for her since 2015, and when she saw Danielle's story on the news, she recognized the eyes immediately. Raina told police Raina had always said, "If I go missing, I did it on purpose. Don't come find me unless I ask." Now, she wondered, had her sister finally found peace? Or was she still running from something that hadn't died? In the final moments of Part 1, we learned something that turns the whole story upside down. A tip came from a man named Caleb Benton, a former private investigator. He claimed he helped Raina disappear, but not out of pity. He said she paid him with cryptocurrency from an account linked to a class action lawsuit against a private prison system in Mississippi, the same prison where Marcus Deal was once held, the same system Raina's father worked for, and the same system, Caleb hinted, that had been quietly silencing women for years. He ended his call with this: "She's not who you think, and if you dig too deep, someone else will go missing next." Danielle Monroe, Raina Cole, Lena Jacobs, 3 names, 1 woman, and a secret powerful enough to destroy everything she once knew. But the story isn't over. Not even close! She changed her name, burned every photo, built a new life from scratch, but someone was still watching. And the moment she let her guard down, he found her. What happened next was not part of the plan. After disappearing from Atlanta, Raina, now going by Imani West, settled in a quiet suburb outside Charlotte, North Carolina. She took night shifts at a 24-hour diner, lived in a studio above a pawn shop, paid everything in cash. She'd gone full ghost. No social media, no bank account, no friends. Just a journal, a burner phone, and a new therapist who never saw her real ID. And for a year, it worked. But peace has a price, and Raina had a rule. The moment you feel safe, you've already messed up. It started small. A blocked number that rang at exactly 3:17 a.m. for 3 nights in a row, then stopped. She ignored it. Told herself it was spam. But on the 4th night, it rang again, this time with a voicemail. "I told you I'd wait. You think you're safe, but you forgot one thing: I never let go." Her hands shook. The number traced back to a prepaid SIM purchased 2 towns over. Raina didn't sleep that night. And the next morning, she found a white envelope under her door. Inside was a single item: a photo of her as a teenager. Black eye, bruised cheek, and written on the back in shaky pen, "Jackson girls don't vanish. They're taken back." Detective Monica Lyle dug deeper into Marcus Deal's history. What she found raised red flags. He wasn't just an ex. He was part of a state-sponsored informant program during his prison sentence, used to infiltrate inner-city organizations and flip witnesses. He made deals, gave names, got early parole, but he was also accused quietly of intimidating female witnesses who had filed complaints against correctional officers. The cases were always dropped. The women? They disappeared or recanted. One of those women, Raina Cole. She wasn't just escaping Marcus. She was escaping an entire machine. Raina knew what the voicemail meant. He had found her again. So she activated Failsafe, a protocol she'd written herself. Wipe burner phone, ditch all belongings, flee to prearranged safe zone. But this time she hesitated, because someone new was in her life. Luis, a quiet dishwasher at the diner. He'd started walking her home after shifts. They'd talk. He made her laugh. And the night before she planned to vanish again, he gave her a key. "If you ever need to disappear, come here first." But the next morning, when she arrived at Luis's place, it had been ransacked. Luis was gone. And on the wall, spray painted in red. "Run didn't work last time." Desperate, Raina returned to the one person she hadn't lied to entirely. Her therapist, Dr. Simone Hartwell. She told Simone the truth. Her name, her past, the staged death, the voicemail. Simone listened in silence, then walked to her desk, opened a drawer, and handed Raina a manila folder. Inside were notes, photos, old case files, and one surveillance photo of Raina taken outside the clinic before she vanished. Simone whispered. "You're not the first woman to come to me afraid of Marcus Deal. But you might be the last if we don't act now." Simone had been collecting evidence for years, quietly, carefully. She believed Marcus was part of a wider extraction ring, a covert system, using women as pawns to silence legal threats against the prison industry. Threaten, discredit, disappear. Raina was one of over 11 women whose stories Simone had cataloged. Each time, the pattern was the same. The woman files a complaint. She's labeled unstable. Marcus re-enters her life. She disappears or reappears somewhere else under duress. "You weren't crazy," Simone told her. "You were their most dangerous liability. That's why they won't stop." Simone and Raina crafted a trap. They leaked a fake address linked to Raina through a dummy health insurance login. 2 days later, a man was caught on CCTV watching the address from a black sedan. It was Marcus, but there was something off. He didn't look like the man Raina remembered. He looked thinner, slower. Simone ran a background check, and that's when the final twist dropped. Marcus Deal died 7 months ago. His death certificate was real. He was buried in Mississippi. So who was the man in the footage? In a panic, Simone reviewed her notes. Raina combed through the voicemail again. The voice, it wasn't Marcus. It was similar, but not identical. Then, in one of the whistleblower statements Simone had collected, a woman mentioned, "They don't let the men disappear either. They replace them. They give the role to someone else," which meant someone had taken Marcus's place. Someone trained to be just like him, to continue the job he failed to finish. Raina activated one last plan. She traveled to an old friend of her mother's in Louisiana, someone she hadn't spoken to in 10 years, a gospel singer named Delilah Moore who once sang at prisons and jails. Delilah took her in, gave her a new room under a new name, Hope. Said she reminded her of a younger version of her mama. But on Raina's third night there, someone broke into Delilah's church van, tore out the dash cam, left no fingerprints, just a photo taped to the driver's seat. It was of Luis, beaten, bound, eyes wide, still alive. And on the back, written in blocky Sharpie, "You want him back. You come home." The game had changed. This wasn't about disappearing anymore. This was a message. And now Raina had a choice. Run again and lose everyone, or go back and face the system that built her nightmare. And the man pretending to be Marcus Deal. One thing was clear. She's not the victim anymore. She's the threat. She faked her death, vanished, started over. But when the past came hunting with someone else wearing her abuser's face, she realized one thing. They weren't just watching her, they were testing her. And now it was her turn to disappear on her own terms. The image of Luis, bound and bruised, wasn't just a threat. It was bait. Raina stared at it for hours in the safety of Delilah's Louisiana home. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She did something else. She started writing names, locations, dates. Because if they had Luis, it meant they were close. And if they were close, then her window to act was closing fast. Delilah watched her from the kitchen and said, "You always knew how to break out, baby. But do you know how to fight back?" There was one person Raina never wanted to contact again. A woman named Naomi Quinn, who once ran cleanups for women trying to escape abusive pasts. Naomi had helped Raina disappear the first time, but not for free. Naomi dealt in debt and in secrets. She held Raina's original documents, her real birth certificate, and she was the only one who knew Raina's entire story. Raina called her from a landline. Used an old code, 4 blue candles, 1 out. Naomi answered. "You know this isn't free, right? You know this ends with blood." Raina replied, "It already has." Naomi confirmed what Simone had feared. The man following Raina wasn't Marcus. He was Elijah Deal, Marcus's half-brother. Clean record, military discharge. Now off-grid, Elijah was part of a private contractor firm linked to several prisons in the South. One of their functions? Reintegration and risk management. Translation: make problems disappear, especially those who knew too much. Naomi had heard Elijah's name before. Said he was used for special cases. You don't get sent Elijah unless someone's scared you'll talk. Naomi gave Raina a plan. They wouldn't go through the police. They'd use Raina as bait, again. But on her terms. She needed to draw Elijah out and offer what he wanted. Silence. In exchange for Luis's life, Naomi prepped her for the meet, taught her how to mask her voice, how to use low-tech surveillance, and how to disappear again if it all went wrong. But there was one thing Naomi insisted on. Record everything, even the lies, especially the lies, because this wasn't just about escape anymore. It was about proof. The meeting was set in Jackson, Mississippi, the place she once swore she'd never return. An old abandoned motel on the edge of town. Cameras hidden in light sockets. Microphone tucked in her coat lining. Elijah arrived late. Same eyes as Marcus, but colder, smarter, and quieter. He brought no weapons. Just a phone, he said. You were never supposed to be this difficult. Raina said nothing. Elijah held up the phone. On it, a live feed. Luis, gagged, alive. One call. He disappears. You go back to being dead. We call it square. Then he said something that changed everything. You think you're the only one who faked a death? The system you're fighting doesn't exist on paper. It lives in people like me. Naomi had given Raina a second device, an isolated hotspot. No GPS, untraceable. As Elijah made the offer, Raina live-streamed his face, encrypted and fed to Dr. Simone Hartwell, waiting on the other end. Simone was already meeting with a reporter from ProPublica, and now she had visual proof. Elijah paused mid-sentence, looked around, and for the first time, he looked afraid. What did you do? He asked. What did you do? Raina whispered back. In the next 48 hours, everything unraveled. The footage of Elijah's confession went viral. Simone leaked it anonymously to a journalist. Naomi vanished again. Delilah's home was broken into, but she was safe. And Luis? He was found 2 days later at a bus terminal in Memphis, shaken, silent, but breathing. Elijah Deal disappeared. Again. A federal warrant was issued, but he was already gone. And Raina? She went offline completely. The video became a rallying cry for survivors of system-linked abuse. A congressional hearing was quietly opened. No official names were listed, but everyone in the know knew who the woman who faked her own death really was. And 1 year later, an anonymous envelope arrived at Dr. Simone's office. Inside was a photo of Raina, wearing sunglasses, smiling, sitting beside a coastline, sunset behind her. On the back, just 2 words. I remember. But the story isn't over, because Elijah Deal wasn't working alone, and Raina's data leak exposed someone very high up. She thought she'd outrun them, thought the exposure was enough, thought she was finally free. But secrets this big? They don't die when the truth comes out. They just change hands. It had been 10 months since Raina disappeared again. Simone still received no calls, no letters, just silence. Until one morning, a package arrived at her office. No return address. Inside, a USB stick and a note. Do not go to the police. Start here. The USB held 1.2 gigabytes of encrypted logs, case numbers, transcripts, and names. Some of them were familiar. Others were sitting judges, state senators, even a former foster care director. And every single document was linked to a single data project. Override, Behavioral Response Program, 2006-2017. Simone turned to a trusted data analyst named Joe Holloway, an old friend from college. Joe had been working in civil rights tech litigation for years. Together, they decrypted the files. What they discovered was horrifying. Override was a pilot program run between Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. Its aim? Use trauma survivors, especially women, as behavioral case studies. Their responses to abuse, fear, and escape were monitored, recorded, and systematically manipulated. The goal? To test compliance algorithms for private contractors handling criminal rehabilitation. Raina wasn't a fluke. She was a subject. Case, Ando C44 Jex, entered into the system at age 16. At the top of every file was a name. Dr. Grant Lawford, lead behavioral architect. Override program. Simone froze. Because she knew that name. He had been her supervisor during her postdoc residency at Jackson Behavioral Institute. He'd written her letters of recommendation. He'd mentored her. She'd trusted him. That man taught me how to listen, Simone whispered. But now I know he was only listening so he could break people better. Joe uncovered something else. Raina's childhood file had been flagged in Mississippi's foster care system. But Raina wasn't ever in foster care. until she was 8. A brief window, 6 months, after her mother was hospitalized, before her father took full custody. That 6-month gap was enough to enroll her in Override, a system that selected children with high trauma markers, no active oversight, and poor legal protection. They were placed with trusted homes. Homes paid to provoke behavior, to document it, and someone inside that system kept those reports coming. Even after she grew up, one of the reports had a scanned signature, submitted by L. Monroe, dated 2011. Simone's blood ran cold, because she'd seen that name before, in one of Raina's earliest therapy forms. L. Monroe had been listed as her emergency contact. Raina had always said she didn't know who that was. Until now, Joe dug deeper and found a match. Lenore Monroe, retired social worker, Jackson, Mississippi, and most chilling, Raina's aunt, her mother's estranged sister. She had been the temporary guardian during Raina's foster care stay and had submitted 11 reports on her behavior. Lenore had marked Raina as emotionally erratic and non-compliant, said she had a tendency to escape into fantasy, which became the basis for Override's surveillance file on her. Simone now realized Raina hadn't just been tracked by strangers. She'd been watched by her own blood. Simone knew what she had to do. She returned to Jackson, to the house on River Street where Lenore Monroe still lived. Old, frail, bitter, Lenore didn't pretend to be shocked. She poured tea, sat across from Simone, and spoke in a voice like rusted metal. "You think that girl was innocent? You think I wanted to watch her be swallowed up by the system? I gave her a chance to survive it. She just didn't follow the rules." Simone asked, "So you signed her life away?" Lenore shrugged. "I protected her. And when she ran, they sent someone else to clean up." As Simone drove away from Jackson, her phone rang. "A blocked number," she answered. A male voice spoke. "Not Elijah. Not Marcus. Someone else. You've gone too far, Doctor. You think the girl was the only project? You're just another folder now." Click. An hour later, Joe called her, shaking. Her house had been broken into. Laptop gone. Hard drives wiped. No cameras caught anything. But they'd left a message. Spray painted in red on Joe's whiteboard. Next. Simone fled. She knew she was being watched. So she turned to the one place she hadn't dared. The press. She sent the encrypted USB to 3 reporters, all independent, all off-grid. But it was the 4th recipient who mattered most, because in a postmarked envelope sent from New Mexico, Raina resurfaced. Her message was short. "They weren't after me. I was the proof. The real target was anyone who looked too close. That includes you. Stay dark. Simone has no choice but to disappear. Raina's not just a missing person anymore. She's the key to unraveling a secret surveillance system built on black pain, trauma, and control. She thought she'd escaped. Thought she knew how deep the system went. But the truth? There was someone else. Not a spy. Not a tracker. A professional. The kind of person they send when secrets stop responding to fear. And only a cleaner will do. When Dr. Simone Hartwell's apartment was burned to the ground, firefighters ruled it electrical, but the message scrawled in smoke-black ink across her mirror said otherwise. Too close to the wire, the flash drive was gone. Her backups erased. Everything she and Joe had built deleted in one night. But Simone wasn't dead. She'd left 12 hours earlier, tipped off by a warning only one person could have sent. Raina. And she had one last ace. A secure P.O. box in Tulsa, where a package had just arrived. Inside, a phone, a key, a handwritten note. "He's called the cleaner. If he finds me first, don't come. If I find him first, you'll know." His real name was never confirmed, but the few who crossed paths with him had a name. Micah Vale, a former intelligence operative, trained in human behavior, network intrusion, and non-digital removal. He didn't chase. He dismantled. He didn't threaten. He erased. His specialty wasn't murder. It was undoing the very idea that someone existed. And now someone in Override had reactivated him to do what Elijah failed to finish. In Arizona, a man used a stolen EBT card at a gas station. Nothing unusual. Until the clerk flagged a name on the receipt. R. Cole. And on surveillance, a woman matching Raina's build, hair, and gait. She wanted to be seen. Simone knew it immediately. Raina was calling him out. "She's setting a trap. Simone whispered. But what if she's the bait in the ambush? Raina moved through small towns. Quick stops. Never 2 nights in one place. But she always left something behind. A breadcrumb, a receipt, a recorded voicemail, a blurred reflection on a bus terminal feed. Micah Vale followed it all, unseen, silent. He wasn't just chasing her. He was building a behavioral map, tracking her choices, anticipating her next move. And he was getting close. A week later, a cleaning woman in Holbrook, Arizona found a motel room left pristine, except for one thing, a manila folder on the bed. Inside, a photo of Elijah Deal, a list of former Override operatives, and a note. I know what Micah Vale looks like. You're not the only one who studied how to disappear. The clerk called it in. But by the time anyone arrived, the room had been torched from inside. The sprinklers saved the structure, but the folder was gone. Someone had beat them there. And they left only this on the wall. You never had the only cleaner. What Simone didn't know, what Micah didn't know, was that Raina hadn't gone alone. She had trained with Naomi Quinn, and Naomi had her own operatives, women like Raina, survivors who didn't want revenge. They wanted records, they wanted evidence, and some of them were embedded inside the very system that had tried to erase them. Micah traced Raina to a quiet off-the-grid RV compound outside Flagstaff. No cameras, no electricity, no Wi-Fi, just silence, desert wind, and a single flickering lantern. He entered at 3:14 a.m., expected her to be asleep. She was waiting. Camera rolling, wearing a mic, broadcasting on a pirate network to thousands of digital listeners. You finally showed, she said. Let's talk about Override, about your real employer. Micah reached for his phone. No signal. That's when Naomi stepped out from the shadows. We were never hiding, she said. We were collecting. And you, Micah Vale, are our final entry. What happened next was a digital firestorm. Raina and Naomi's team pushed the full cache. Override blueprints, internal video logs, survivor testimonies, names of active operatives, payment trails. The real purpose of the program: to predict social unrest by studying generational trauma, especially among Black women. Then use that data to influence sentencing, welfare access, and surveillance patterns. It wasn't about justice. It was control disguised as concern. And Raina had exposed it all. Live unfiltered. Micah Vale didn't stop her. He just watched, then said quietly, they'll burn the world before they admit this is real. Within hours, Naomi, Raina, and every member of their team disappeared. No names, no credit, no press conferences, just a legend. Simone received one final message. It was encrypted, voice only. Raina, you were never meant to be part of this, but you saved me anyway. Don't look for me again. And if they ever come knocking, remember? I already told the world. Let them find a new lie. Raina Cole is gone. Override is burning, but a shadow network still remains, quietly shifting underground. And someone else is watching now. Someone higher up, older, untouched. If you believe in uncovering the truth and standing for justice, we'd love your support. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your voice matters, and you help make this community stronger. We'll be back with another case, right here on Unraveled Crime.